So I finally broke down. I finally let my sponsorship line convince me that I should go to regional events, right? So here was my MO. I'd get the last chair in the last row of the auditorium, the one closest to the door. So I would sit there, legs crossed, arm crossed, let's see, if these people are going to really tell me the real secret. And I would sit back there in the back row and look for the excuses why whatever they did wouldn't work for me. And let me tell you the biggest excuse that I used, and I think you're going to find this most on your team, is the excuse of, well, I just don't know that many people. So I would sit there in that last row. So I said, well, of course it works for that guy. He lives in New York City, man. Well, of course it works for that lady. She's a really successful doctor. She has thousands of patients. She must know so many people. That would never work for me. Let's talk about the difference between an amateur and a professional, right? If we look at the surface level, say, hey, what's the difference between an amateur and a professional? Amateurs don't get paid, right? You might like to play golf. Okay, great. Well, you're an amateur, but Tiger Woods or Phil Mickelson or those guys, they're professional because when they play golf, somebody writes them a check. So that's the difference between amateur and professional, right? Same thing in our business. We want to get paid. We'd like to make more money. If we're going to get a bonus check, we'd like it to be bigger. Well, if you want to migrate from that amateur status or that hobby status to professional status, the first thing you got to understand is that meeting people is a skill set. And it's a skill set anybody can learn. It's also a skill set anybody can learn regardless of your inclination, whether you're an outgoing person or you're a shy person. I'm actually, when I'm not on the platform, I'm a very shy person. And that always shocks people because I have no, you put me in front of a crowd of 5,000 or 10,000 people and it's like put a quarter in the jukebox, I'm ready to go. Because I control that, right? I don't have any issues with that. So people are often surprised to hear that I'm very shy when I'm not on the platform. I'm not a guy who chit-chats in the elevator or, hot enough for you, cold enough, how about those chargers? That's just not me. I'm not a small talk guy. But I've been able to learn that there's a skill set of meeting people, of developing relationships, and you can do the same, and that's what we're going to do in this module. Here's where we're going to begin. Let's talk with this idea of shared experiences and commonalities. So remember that, shared experiences and commonalities. Here's what I would suggest. If you were in line and there's a brand new blockbuster from James Cameron, right, that is going to have a special midnight showing on Thursday night, and you're in line for that blockbuster, I would bet you probably have a conversation with the person in the line in front of you or the person in the line behind you at some point while you're waiting out there at 11:30 in the cold or the heat or the rain or the whatever it is. Because it's a shared experience. And they're going to say, well, did you hear the early reviews? Or, the buzz on this movie's crazy. Or what do you think Cameron's going to do this time? You share this experience, so it breaks down the barrier. It's just a natural time to have a conversation. Here's the thing I noticed. I spend most of my life in Miami. Now, Miami's the kind of town where you just don't talk to everybody you meet. I was raised in a place called Madison, Wisconsin. Now in Madison, when you walk down the street and someone else walks down the street, you say hello to them or good morning or good afternoon. That's what we do in the Midwest. Miami, you don't say hello to strangers because they might pull out an AK-47, right? That's just the way it is there, right? But here's what I noticed, and I think you'll see the same thing. Doesn't matter where you are, Miami, New York City, Beirut, Africa, anywhere. If you're out early jogging and you see someone else out early jogging, you will nod to each other, you'll smile at each other, you'll say hi, you'll greet each other. If you're out walking a dog, somebody else is walking a dog, you will have a conversation. If you are pushing a stroller with a baby in it, and someone is coming the other way pushing a stroller with a baby in it, I promise you, you're going to have a conversation. If you're a pregnant woman and you're walking down the street and there's another pregnant woman walking the other way, it is impossible for you two not to have a conversation with each other. It would defy all the laws of the universe for two pregnant women to walk past each other and not have a conversation. Why? Because of course that's one of the most life-changing, emotional, important events in any woman's life. And when you see someone else who's going through that same life-changing, emotional, important event, that's such a bonding, that's such a sense of commonality, shared experience. You're going to have a conversation. So the secret to meeting people, if you're shy, let's say, is to put yourself in circumstances with shared experiences, with commonalities. I can't tell you how many millions of dollars I made because I played softball, but it's a lot. And not because I get paid to play softball, because I'm amateur at softball. But I joined softball league and I met people who I sponsored into the business who went out and built big teams, and that produced millions of dollars in residual income for me. Right? Now, here's the thing. I didn't know any of the people in that softball league. But I was I really wanted to play softball, so even though I have this nervousness or anxiety about being around groups of people that I don't know anyone, my desire to play softball was greater than my anxiety to meet new people. So and then you get there and it's like you're on a team and everybody gets busy and you start playing and you're talking because you have to talk to play together. And then by the end of the game, you're not strangers anymore, you're friends. So it takes a situation that you could see as a nervous or an anxious one, and it turns it into nothing because it's a shared experience. Any club you join, any sport you join, any hobby organization, if you join the Polish-American club or the German-Japanese club or the Learn to Speak Hebrew club or the community college courses, anything like that where it's shared experiences, there's just, when you attend the same church, temple, mosque, synagogue, you're taught, hey, what did you think of the message this week? Wasn't that a powerful sermon that the Reverend delivered? Conversations just happen. So whether you're shy, extroverted, doesn't matter if you put yourself in these shared experiences. A funny thing happened when I played in a tournament in Atlanta, and we got hit with a downpour and just deluge, soaked everything, my cleats, my uniform, everything. So the field was not far from the campus of Georgia Tech. And I'm walking by Georgia Tech and I see they've got like a college bookstore there, and they've got t-shirts and caps and shorts and everything. So I'm soaking wet. I say, oh my goodness, perfect, here's some clothes. So I run in and I buy these, t-shirt and shorts. Couple weeks later, I'm in my elevator and I'm going down, I'm in my apartment, I'm going down to the gym, and a guy gets in, he says, hey, you went to Georgia Tech? And I'm like, no. And he said, oh, well, I saw the shirt. And I thought, oh, yeah. I was in a tournament, I was enjoying, it was raining, I bought the shirt, whatever. But think about that. If you're wearing a Philadelphia Flyers hockey jersey and you're in the department store and somebody else has a Flyer jersey, you probably have a connection. If you're a Manchester United fan, you see someone with a Manchester jersey. If you're a Barca fan and you meet someone who's wearing a Barca cap or a jersey or a tote bag or whatever, that's a shared experience. So look for those kind of situations. Look for commonalities. Look for times where you can share experience, because it just takes any anxiety out of the way. Put yourself in social situations. I mean, where the human animal, it seems strange to me, but the human animal seems to be a herd animal. They like to travel in herds, they like to get together, they like to have conversations, and so they gravitate to those kind of situations. Here's the thing that I want to deal with this issue of being shy versus being outgoing. Think back to when we did the video-based module about third-party tools. Same kind of thing. We talked about using tools so your strengths wouldn't get used against you or your weaknesses wouldn't get used against you. Same kind of thing we're talking about here. You may be one of those really gregarious, outgoing people and you just start conversations with everybody you meet. That's great. If you have that, I don't want to take that away from you. Just remember that in your case, it's going to be really important you don't let that get used against you. Same thing, let's suppose you're really pathologically shy, you have a fear of initiating conversations with people, you don't like being in social settings, you get really nervous when you're in crowds. It's okay, I get that, I've been there, I know where that's from. I know where you're coming from. Don't let that work against you either. Negate those things and put yourself in a circumstance where you're going to be able to meet people in a non-anxiety type of way. The key is this. If you're that outgoing person, here's the danger for you. You meet somebody at the supermarket checkout line and it's 10 items or less and you're ready to sign them up before they even checked out. That's not going to work well for you and that's not going to duplicate, because most people aren't going to be able to do that. So don't let your strength, which in this case is your ability to meet people, develop a relationship, have a great conversation, don't let that work against you. What you want to do, the whole point of meeting people in this context we're discussing, is to get them on your candidate list, which we're going to talk about in another chapter, how you work that. So it's not to meet people, to recruit them while you're in line waiting for that blockbuster movie from James Cameron, or recruit them while you're waiting in line to check out at the appliance store on the weekend. The idea is to meet people, develop a relationship, and then when the time is right in that relationship, to bring up the subject of the business or the product line or the service line and how it might help them. Asking questions, finding out what their goals are, what are their dreams, where do they want to go, and then how you could help them. So we're not meeting people so we could try to recruit them on the street corner. That's where we get the bad press. We get people who get a little over anxious and they're out there and they're so hypey and pressure. No, it's not about that. It's about just go out and make friends. Develop relationships, put those people on the candidate list, and then you're going to, there'll be a time when it's appropriate to bring up the business. Now let's deal with the subject of meeting people online, because it's the same principles apply, but it's just in the online space as opposed to the physical space. One of the most exciting things about the business today is social media and the internet and what this allows us to do, because the internet really has made the whole world a village, and it really, the ability to communicate is so much easier, and the ability to develop relationships is so much easier. The ability to find old lost relationships and resurrect them is so much better. So it really is a powerful new platform that allows us to grow the business faster. But the rules are the same. What I see is people set up a Twitter account and then they just start feeding out tweets about, promos about their business. Nobody wants to read those, so they're just going to unfollow you. Same thing, you're on Facebook or LinkedIn or any one of these sites, whatever site it is, it doesn't matter. The point is not to get on there and start spamming people with messages about your business, because that's not what those sites are designed for. And you're quickly going to make yourself a pariah, and people are going to unfriend you, unfollow you, block you, and just generally avoid you. Just like they would is if they just met you in line at the supermarket and you were trying to do a flip chart presentation while the cashier's ringing up their orange juice. They'd say, I didn't even know what this person is selling, but they're so crazy. Why are they trying to sponsor me in line at the supermarket? Let me get my product paid for and get away from them, right? We have people doing the same thing on the social media sites. It's really making the profession look really bad. Why would you wouldn't go to a business card exchange and go to the middle of the room and say, attention everybody, I just want to make an announcement. My name is John Smith. I'm an attorney. I do bankruptcy law. If any of you want to file for bankruptcy, please come and find me. Everybody in the room would say, who's this loud, obnoxious jerk? Why is he pitching us like that? So why would you do that on social media? The same thing. Somebody, maybe they saw something on Facebook, you were friends with an equal friend, and they saw something, so now they followed you, and then they see every hour or every 3 hours you're sending out a pitch for your weight loss product, or your save money on your phone bill product, or your utilities product, or your cosmetics, or whatever it is, or it's just pitches about how to make money, and they're like, who is this person? And they're going to unfriend, unfollow you, or block you. Develop the relationships. Just go out there and make new friendships. And then when you don't go out with that pressure of, I'm going out, I've got to find someone, meet them, and sponsor them today, you just go out and live your life, but live more life. And I would say, obviously, I know people who literally will, instead of filling up their car at one gas station with 20 gallons of gas, they'll get 10 gallons at one gas station and 10 gallons at another gas station, just so they say, hey, I doubled my chance to meet people. I'm not saying you have to do that, but I thought it was an interesting idea that somebody thought of that, and I thought it was a pretty clever way to say, hey, they just doubled their exposure of meeting people, right? We're all very much creatures of habit, right? You probably have the same hairstylist, the same chiropractor, the same accountant, the same favorite restaurant, the same favorite nightclub, blah, 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 blah. What about if you change that up? Put yourself in different situations. Okay, so you always go to Red Lobster on Friday night. Well, why don't you go to somewhere else on Friday night? You always have lunch at this cafe. Well, why don't you try a new place? Okay, great. You've been going to the same nail salon for 10 years with Monica. Well, Monica didn't want to join your business. She didn't want to look at your materials. Maybe you ought to think about getting a new nail tech, right? So don't be afraid to change up your routine. Put yourself in other situations. I did a blog on this once. I called it $1 Million Monday. And it was a concept that people had a lot of fun with, and so I'm going to put it out to you and think about if you want to do something with this. But you pick a day, any day. I call it $1 Million Monday, but it could be $1 million any day, where you just say, I'm going to go out and I'm going to live like a millionaire for one day. How I would live if I was a multimillionaire. So you're going to go out and you're going to have breakfast at a restaurant, right? And then you're going to go and you're going to get a manicure and a pedicure. And then you're going to go and you're going to go get a massage somewhere. And then you're going to go and you're going to try a different place for lunch. And then you're going to go take a tour of the museum in the afternoon. And then you're going to go and you're going to visit the zoo. And then you're going to go and do some charity work at a homeless shelter or whatever. And then you're going to, go somewhere for dinner. And you go to all these places and set aside this one day and say, well, if money and time and nothing was an object, this is how I'd love to spend a day. It's really cool from a dream building standpoint. It's really cool from a standpoint of expanding your prosperity consciousness. And the other thing it does is it allows you to make a bunch of new friends, meet a bunch of new people. So think about that. Other thing, we'll talk about doing a candidate list in another section, but be mindful of that as you're going out, you're just developing friendships, making the relationships, and then putting them on the list so that later, when its time is appropriate, you can go back and look at the business. Where to find the best people? Well, this is not rocket science, okay? If you go to happy hour at a pub, the odds of you finding your next superstar leader are not as good as if you were at a Friday night in a Barnes & Noble bookstore that has a little coffee shop and you found somebody who spent their Friday evenings immersed in a couple of books versus somebody who's at the happy hour, right? So the way I like to think of it is I want to put myself in situations where people of higher consciousness congregate. I want to put myself in situations where people who are striving for success congregate. And once again, I'm going to put the same dynamics, online and offline, because it's the same thing. So I know if I meet people in a Friday night at a Barnes & Noble, these people are readers. These people of higher consciousness, they are my market. If I meet people at a self-development seminar, a health and wellness seminar. These are exactly the kind of people I'm looking for. If there's a success seminar or a one of those expos or a franchising expo or a business expo or an entrepreneur expo, I want to be around. I just want to be attended. I'm not going to rent a booth. I'm not going to have a big banner and be pitching people. I'm just going to buy a ticket. I want to go there and look through the booths and see who I happen to meet, because those are people of a higher consciousness. If you take a continuing education course at college, these are people of higher consciousness. A lot of churches like Unity churches and Science of Mind churches, they have a lot of classes throughout the week. So there might be yoga class on Monday night and a prosperity course on Tuesday night and basket weaving on Wednesday night and something else on Thursday night, or some nights there's 4 different classes. Think about, well, wow, who would be the kind of people I'd meet in that class? Is that the kind of people I would like, that I could develop relationships with? That wouldn't matter even if they get in the business or they don't. If you put yourself in a circumstance where you'd meet the kind of people you'd like to associate with, I promise you the business will take care of itself. It'll just be a natural extension of what happens with that relationship. So put yourself in situations where people congregate, where there's a shared experience, where there's commonality. And that's why I say it's the same offline or online, right? If you follow the Shark Tank hashtag, right, you're going to see people who are interested in business and entrepreneurship. If you go to a blog or a conversation chat room about Shark Tank or Dragon's Den or any of those kind of shows, I know there's different names in different countries around the world, but people who are into that kind of stuff, those are great candidates for our business, because these are people not with the employee mindset, but with the entrepreneurial mindset. So whether it's offline or online, ask yourself, where are people with entrepreneurial mindsets gathering? Where are people who want a better life gathering? Where are people on the process of personal growth and self-development gathering? How can I put myself in a situation, non-threatening, no anxiety, just a situation where I will be around those people, and the shared experience will allow me to meet new people, make new friends, and develop relationships. Last thing before you go, I want to tell you my secret weapon spot to meet great people for this business. And I stumbled on it all by accident, but I still to this day, I think it's my secret weapon for where to meet great people. It's the car wash. And I don't mean the brush car wash that wrecks your car. I mean the hand car wash. Because what you find at the hand car wash are people with nice automobiles. I can tell you, at this one hand car wash I went to, I met 3 different NBA players, 1 NFL player, a guy who owned 47 Ferraris in his car collection. Some of them were $2 million a copy. This is, the level of success this guy was at. A preacher of a church that had about 5,000 people go every week. A dean of a college. These were all people I met at the car wash, because again, it's a shared experience, because you all give your car to them, and then you're sitting there for 15, 20, 30 minutes while they're finishing up your car, and conversations develop. And you know what the thing is? You know who goes to the hand car wash? People with nice cars. And you know what you find about people with nice cars? They're people who are successful at something. They've made enough money to buy a BMW, a Lexus, a Ferrari, a Bentley, or whatever it is, and they take care of it. So first of all, we like people who wash their cars. That tells us they've got character. We like people who, that just tells us something about them, right? And the fact that they drive a good car tells us they've been successful in something. So if you've got the talent it takes to become a successful NBA or NFL player, that tells me you've got self-discipline, character, work ethic. You'd probably be really good in my business. You're a preacher, got 5,000 people in your flock every Sunday. That tells me you've got the character, the discipline, the work ethic to be successful in our business. You've got 57 Ferraris or whatever he had. You're telling me this is a guy who knows something about success. These are people who'd be great. Now, I don't sponsor all those people, again. And I'm not pitching them at the car wash. I don't want you pitching them at the car wash. But I'm just saying that's a great place to meet people, exchange cards, or click your phones together, swap your emails, whatever. Make the connection. Develop the relationship. Same way, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, great. Follow, start a conversation, get a relation, and then when it's correct, you take it offline. Hey, I've got something I want to chat with you about. Got a phone number I can call you. You know, hey, I got something I'd like to chat with you about. Can we meet for coffee? And take it where it needs to be in the context it needs to be. But it all starts, all the power in rolling, it's going to start with understanding that it's about meeting people, and understanding that saying, well, I just don't know that many people. I've talked to all my friends. Everybody I've talked to isn't interested. Those are victim statements. And here's the deal, guys. You can be a victim or you can be a victor, but you can't be both. You have to choose. So the amateurs, they choose to be victims. They say, well, I just don't know that many people. I don't have connections. I'm not well off, you know, and I've talked to everybody I know. They're just not interested. Or you could be a victor. And a victor says, wow, this ability to meet people is a skill set. And I've got a course on this right in my learning platform from Randy Gage in the Gage Academy. I need to go back and review that again because I can get better at this skill set. And the better I get at this skill set, the more people I'm going to have in my prospecting pipeline. The more people I have in my prospecting pipeline, and the more people I'm going to have coming into the business. The more people I have coming into the business, the more people I'm going to have developing into leaders. And the more people I have developing into leaders are creating the annuity for my walk-away residual passive income. But it all starts with meeting people.